Welcome. This is a top 10 animated films video that I'm doing. Yeah, and so um, I'm doing my top 10 animated films. We've done top 10 lists in the past, but this one it's very different. We've never really talked about animated films really at all, and I thought it'd be something interesting because I've seen a lot of animated films. I've seen a lot of probably even more animated TV shows, that kind of thing, and so I'm very well versed in the animation world, and so yeah, and this list, so I pretty much just throw out I it's pretty much everything either from American animation to anime to stop motion to children's stuff, adult animated stuff, that kind of thing. And so, yeah. Um, I'm gonna just begin, I guess. Yeah, top 10. Uh, number. Oh, fuck. Hold on. God damn it. I forgot my list. My number 10 is uh Mad Monster Party 1967. A rate, what's the company again? I don't even remember. Rate Rankin Vase. This is like a forgotten movie from the catalog, and this is also their only theatrical stop motion movie. I guess they didn't do it anymore. I'm assuming this movie was a flop when it came out. Um, but this is an interesting movie. This is one of my most watched movies of all time. This is one of my favorite movies as a kid. I've seen this movie ungodly amount of times since when I was a kid. This is actually probably honestly, um, I honestly think this is kind of weird, but I think this might be the most uh, important. This might be my most like weirdly not influential, but like this is the movie like I think that kind of got me into movies and stuff like unintentionally sort of. It's kind of like this movie is the movie that got me into horror movies, and then that's really where I really got into movies and stuff like that. And because I saw this as a kid, and I saw this as a kid, I got it from the library on VHS, and I always checked it out over and over again, and yeah, and I loved it. And then I got curious, and then I was just like, oh, I found out that because this movie, it's pretty much just a children's film, like comedy film, but it has all the monsters, the classic kind of monsters in it, and it's pretty interesting because it's not like a Universal movie, but it pretty much has all of them in it, like, and in their like public domain form. Even the creature from the Black Lagoon is in it, but they just call it the creature, but they don't call it the creature from the Black Lagoon. And they kept the designs kind of different to avoid copyright. And there's like a King Kong guy and stuff. And even though everything's like Universal referenced, and there's even a character in this that's supposed to be what's his name from M, Pierre Lorre. It's not him, but it's someone that's trying to be like him. And then the cast is interesting. It has Boris Karloff in it. This is actually one of his last movies. I think this is the movie he did right before Targets, and yeah, and then Phyllis Diller's in it, being Phyllis Diller, and she just pretty much plays herself. Boris Karloff pretty much plays himself in it. It's like a hokey fuck. It's a hokey movie. Tim Burton is, I mean, he's even went on record, but this movie's blatantly his entire like stop motion career. Everything is from this movie. It's like so it's very blatant, um, And yeah, I've seen this movie a million times. And I think I still like it. I don't know why. Like, there's probably better anime movies I would put on it, but I was really struggling for a number 10 spot, so I put Mad Monster Party because like I have that sentimental thing for it. And the soundtrack in this movie is goes way too hard because it's all like 60s, like almost like Phil Spector type shit in the soundtrack. It's like original music, and it's really fucking good. Um, yeah, it's a good movie. Um, I even like I showed it to a girlfriend a couple years ago, and um, now I was just like, I was just thinking like, oh, I don't know if this is a good movie to show, but she liked it, and I liked it, and this movie still holds up, and so yeah, it's a fun movie. If you're into like Universal monsters or stop motion or Tim Burton stuff or 60s like pop culture stuff, this is the movie you should watch. All right, number 9, heavy metal. This movie is one of the most based movies ever made. This is one of the most Giga Chad movies ever made. This is so good. Uh, and there's people that really hate this movie, and they're fucking stupid. They're gay. They go back watching your fucking what's a what's that movie with The Rock? The animated movie, the fucking what's that shit? Whatever that is, that Disney movie with The Rock came out a few years ago. Yeah, go back watching that movie, pieces of shit. This movie's awesome, and I did. It's funny because Alex, he said he watched this as a kid. Um, oh, for the YouTube audience, I'm live streaming this on Instagram, so I'm reading the chat, but you can't see the chat. Yeah, I watched this movie as a kid as well. I think I was a bit older though. I was probably like 10. I was probably 11 when I watched this movie. But this movie is awesome. This movie's a lot of people know this movie from South Park and the South Park parody, but no, this movie's pretty good. Yeah, there's like hokey stuff in it, but it's good. I love like 70s and like 80s, early 80s kind of like adult American animation stuff like Ralph Ashby stuff. I mean, I don't think like all the movies are like that. A lot of the movies are that good, but like I really like the aesthetic, and I do actually like the soundtrack to this movie, even though the sound. I mean, the movie's named after the comic book, but the soundtrack's not even really that heavy metal. It's just 80s shit, and yeah, and also it is interesting because this movie came out like 81, I believe. And, yeah, 81, and that was a very like early like heavy metal wasn't like the genre like wasn't really that like fully established. Yeah, that was still that weird time period where that people did start calling stuff heavy metal, but there's a lot of stuff they called metal that wasn't even metal, like fucking Rush or ACDC, that kind of stuff. Like that was called metal, even though it's really not. But so it's that kind of weird time period where they're just calling stuff that was like hard rock or whatever, like that wasn't even that metal, but stuff like that is metal. And so I think that was kind of partially the reason why this movie had that kind of soundtrack as it did, because there's a lot of rock stuff on here, but there isn't really much metal. I mean, the only metal on here, there's a Black Sabbath song, and that's like it. I can't. I'm trying to think. I don't. There's that Sammy Hagar song. I guess it's kind of metal or whatever. Yeah, there's a couple other metal songs, but yeah, it's just an anthology film, different stories. My favorite story is the fucking the movie has like the first like it's funny I mentioned Giga Chad because there's literally a Giga Chad character in this movie, Captain Stern. I also want to say it's Stern. Yeah, the courtroom short, and he's all, and he's just like he's literally he looks like Giga Chad. And he's just like, and he's like even saying like they ask him shit, and he just goes yes, like Chad. And I feel like the person who created that Giga Chad meme where he just says yes, they've seen this movie. I feel like, and that's where they got it from. And yeah, he's in the courtroom and he's like committed like every single like crime you can think of, and like they talk about how he's like pimped out that elementary school sex ring or whatever, and like fucking no, selling dope to eighth graders or kindergartners or something. But I think yeah, he's like a pedophile, and he's just like in the courtroom, he's just like smiling and says not guilty, but the one guy is like gonna testify for him or whatever, and he fucking can't handle it, and then he gets really mad, turns really big, and then Cheap Trick's Reach Out plays, which I think is actually the best song in the movie. But the voices, the guy that gets really mad at Stern is the guy who does the voice for Squidward, and then Stern is Eugene Levy. Yeah, and so, which is pretty funny. Yeah, oh yeah, the bimbos. Oh yeah, the bimbos, man. I've heard people like critique this movie, like, oh, it's sexist, or it's like, man, you're fucking gay. All right, next movie. Number 8 is. It's funny. This is like the polar opposite of heavy metal. My Neighbor Totoro. I don't really have a lot to say about this movie. This movie isn't that deep. It's a I don't know. It's a beautifully animated movie. Roger Ebert said one of the most beloved of all family films. That's what it says on the back. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good. I don't know. This movie's pretty famous. What do I have to say? I feel like most people have seen this movie when they were kids and shit. I did too, so I don't know. It's a good movie. It's well animated. Just when I was making my list, I was like, oh, this would rank number 8, and so it came out on number 8. There is a weird scene in this movie where fucking a lot of people are creeped out by it. There's like the dad's like bathing with the fucking his daughters in the bathtub, and he's like being goofy and weird and stuff, and people are always like creeped out by that scene because the daughters are like, well, the one's like a really little kid, but the one's like almost like a little too older. But apparently in Japan that's like normal for children. I mean, I don't know. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. I don't know. People are fucking weird perverts and have to like read more than what's actually there. And the cat bust is based, Totoro's based. Totoro's a Sigma. Just to make Sigma grindset memes with Totoro. Anyways, let's move on. Number 7, I don't own. The only reason why I don't own it is because it's a Disney movie, and Disney Blu-rays and stuff are fucking expensive, like way too much money. I don't want to spend that much money on a fucking classic Disney movie that everybody owns on like an old clamshell VHS and they've seen fucking hundreds of times. And yeah, get the fuck out of here. I'm not paying $30 for The Lion King. Okay, get out of here. Anyways, my number 7, and this is the only classic animated Disney film on this list, and it's the only straight up Disney movie on this list. Is the 1951 Alice in Wonderland. I think this movie is really really good. It's always been my favorite of the Disney animated films, and I think it's like actually like technically like if you were to like put them all into like a list and stuff, I think this one's like if you're talking about like as a movie or like just like as an animated movie in general, this one's my favorite animation wise and stuff, and I like it as the most as a movie. I think the best one animated on a technical level though is Sleepy Beauty. I think that's probably like you can even argue that's like maybe the best like animated film, hand drawn film ever made. But Alice in Wonderland is my favorite. I don't really have much to say about it, but it's really I've always liked the Alice in Wonderland story. I don't know. I really like the movie. Yeah. What else? Oh yeah. One of the best YouTube videos, one of the most classic YouTube videos, Pogo's Alice video. It was funny because I was just watching that earlier, and yeah, that's classic YouTube video. One of the best YouTube videos, one of the most Hall of Fame YouTube videos, I shall say. So yeah, I'll move on. Number 6. So we're kind of like in these middle ones are like cord stuck. That was weird. These middle ones are like they're kind of like my like top ranked of the kind of like family kind of animated ones are kind of the like kind of like the more family orientated ones. They all have girl protagonists, but what is it? Hold on, what was the number? Oh, I'm literally holding it in my fucking hand. Kikis Delivery Service, number 6. I rewatched this last year, and I was shocked how much I liked this movie. I was so surprised. This is the first anime movie. This is actually the first anime of anything I've actually ever seen. I mean, I possibly, as like a toddler, saw maybe like Pokemon or like Dragon Ball Z. It's very possible, but this is the first sure anime movie I've ever seen. Is Kiki's Delivery Service, and it's one of my earliest like memories, like earliest movie watching memories is Kiki's Delivery Service. Yeah, and so, which is interesting, but so I watched it way back. We're probably talking like fucking before a lot of you were born. Aging myself here, probably like at least 20 years ago, maybe 21 years ago when I watched this for the first time. And so, yeah, and I watched of course, the American dub, probably VHS. I think it was a VHS, where the American dub has Kirsten Dunst, Spider Girl. I'm doing my Vincent Gallo impression. She's a jerk. She's pretty, but she's a jerk. Janine Garofalo. This is a very 90s cast. Janine Garofalo, Phil Hartman. This is like his last. The American dub was like dubbed like 10 years later after the movie came out, but this is like his like last movie before he got brutally murdered by his stupid cunt wife. And Debbie Reynolds is in this, Carrie Fisher's mom. Also, I would like to point out that this is an interesting movie. This movie has, and the chat, if you're watching it, take a wild guess how This movie has a connection with both. I just gave one away already, but both Vincent Gallo and Lynette Fromme. Yeah. So, what are the connections? I don't know. Now nobody's watching this. They all laughed when I asked that. The answer is Kirsten Dunst, Vincent Gallo, and Phil Hartman, Lynette Fromme. I mention them because we always joke about them on the pod, or reference them on the pod. So yes, Kirsten Dunst was almost in the Brown Bunny, and Phil Hartman was high school friends with Lynette Fromme. So there's your. They're both connected to this movie. This movie, it's pretty basic, like My Neighbor Totoro. There's not much to it. This is about a witch girl. Yeah, it's this is like weird. Like I wanted to do this top 10 too because we've shat on Disney, we've shat on like Man-Childs, we've shat on all those people, and I thought it'd be interesting to say, hey, I like some kids movies that are actually good. Not like Minions or any of that garbage, but like, you know, the high quality, high kino shit like this. And this is like, this is the cutest movie ever made. This is the most wholesome. Like, I don't really fall for a lot of that. I don't really fall for wholesome shit because a lot of times it's forced. But this is the most cutest and wholesome movie ever made. Boom. Alright. Number 5. Alright. I've talked about so my top 5 I've already talked about in previous videos in other lists. But you'll see what I choose. Number 5, The Prince of Egypt. Dude. Okay, one of my most watched movies of all time. Below most watched movies: Star Wars, mostly A New Hope, and The Phantom Menace, and then Empire, Return of the Jedi. Whatever. Star Wars, Monty Python and the Grill, and this movie are my most watched movies of all time, mostly because when I was a kid. This movie is, dude. Like today, like I was going, I was making the list. I was going through my letterbox, looking at my top rated animated films, and I started changing ratings around because my opinions have changed since then. And this one I saw as a 4.5, and I just went, you know what? Fuck that. Let's make that a 5. Like screw that. Let's make it a 5. Why not? And yeah, this movie is like it's very well animated. The music, the soundtrack, probably the hardest soundtrack in any movie. I don't know, man. The soundtrack goes way too hard. Deliver us, da-na-na. Or what's that one? I want to watch this movie after I do this. Something. What the fuck is it? I don't know, but you're playing with the big boys now. All that stuff. Fucking goes hard. This is like the best like religious Christian movie, whatever movie ever made. Kanye probably likes this movie. He probably relates to it. This movie is amazing. I don't really have much to say. If you haven't watched it, you don't have a childhood. All right. Sweating right now. I'm gonna give a list after the 10. Okay. All right. Number 4. Got itchy eye. Pink eye. Number 4. Grave of the Fireflies. This movie is all right. We're done with American animation. Now it's all anime from here on out. All right, Grave of the Fireflies. This is the. I don't know if it is. I'm trying to think if there's another movie. No, this isn't the only movie, but this is one of the. This is the movie that has for sure made me cry the most. I cry every time I watch it. I'll cry even with that scene at the end. If I just pull up the YouTube video, I just start tearing. I just start crying immediately. Like it works every. I turn to Kevin Smith when I watch this movie. I turn to. This is the only movie that makes me Kevin Smith. Now and so depressing war movie about the Japanese fire bombings. What makes me cry is the ending scene with the kind of old like operatic kind of the like old record, like the whatever, is depressing, and seeing her as a ghost and stuff. But the scene, but when I'm like turning, when I Kevin Smith, the moment I Kevin Smith, where I'm like, fuck, is when he says, and then my sister died that day. Then she's like calling out his name. I miss you. That's when I go, fuck. Like Kevin Smith. Yeah, if you like watching a movie about children, if you like watching a movie about children slowly dying, then this is the movie for you. Slowly dying from malnutrition, it's the movie for you. Alright. Zach's going to bed. Fucking dude, how old is he? Old ass going to bed. Come on. Oh, I gotta snooze. I gotta wake up early in the morning. Oh, I gotta feed the ducks. I gotta go on go on a little run like old people do. When they're not even running, they're just like, and they go like feed the ducks, and then they go shopping and annoy all the people there. That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna annoy all the people that work there. Number 3, Princess Mononoke. I always like wonder if I'm saying the name wrong. Mononoke. Princess Mononoke. This is this is a contender for best animated film. This movie is pretty good. Honestly, I could have done like a top Ghibli list, even though there's like 4 I haven't seen or something. I could do it. Maybe in the future I will. Princess Mononoke. This is, I'm not really a fan of fantasy stuff, but I really like this movie. This movie has a lot of similarities with for some reason it has a lot of similarities with Zelda, I think. But also Nessica Valley of the Wind has a lot of similarities with Metroid, and this one has a lot of similarities with Zelda. And I like the world. I like the world in this movie, honestly, like better than like Lord of the Rings or like even Zelda and shit. Like it's my favorite actually fantasy world in any movie. This movie is great. The American voice cast is weird. I got Jada Pinkett Smith, Billy Bob Thornton. Billy Bob Thornton in anime. It's just fucking weird. I don't know. The chick from Good Will Hunting is in it, and she's not. Yeah, no. Yeah, the chick from Good Will Hunting's in it. The American dub. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say, and it's been talked about to death. A lot of eco terrorist girl boss type girls. Ted Kaczynski girls like this movie. I don't know. They're weird. I don't get them. Number 2. Perfect Blue. This movie is amazing. Perfect Blue. I don't really want to give away a lot of the plot. What's that? Black Swan ripped off this movie, and yeah, it's a shame. This movie's better. I love this movie, even aesthetically. I honestly feel like a lot of my videos, pictures, graphic design stuff, art, I guess, is like almost like similar, like looking to this movie. I just kind of now realize that. Yeah, this movie is amazing. Excuse me, who are you? 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 Excuse me. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a great like thriller type film. Yeah, it's a cool movie. I love it. Number 1. So number 1, it's gonna be if you know me, you know what the number 1's gonna be. But if you don't, it was just based on the list. It was gonna be either like 2 options. Yeah, pretty much 2 options. Especially when I said that there's not gonna be any more Disney animated films. Now, Perfect Blue is my number 2. Or yeah, Perfect Blue is my number 2. So it was gonna be 2 films that are famous. And it's not. You might have maybe guessed Nightmare Before Christmas. It was not Nightmare Before Christmas. It's not Nightmare Before Christmas. It's not. It's not Akira. So what could it be? All right. What's the obvious? It's too obvious. It's and it's so like I'm not ashamed of this pick at all, but it's so predictable. It's so like I'm not even gonna really talk about a lot about this. But Spirited Away is my number 1. I mean, if you were watching this video, it's probably like you're like thinking, okay, it's gonna be Spirited Away or Akira. And then because I picked so many anime, Belladonna, Akira, no, Spirited Away is my number 1. Yeah, and this is another one that is probably one of the most watched movies of all time. I watched a shit out of this as a kid. This movie really impacted me as a kid, and it always stuck with me since. And it's very cliched to pick this as number 1, but honestly, like even when I was a kid, I wasn't a fucking like hipster. I was a fucking kid. I wasn't a fucking hipster. I know there's people that are like, ooh, when I was a kid, I thought this movie was overrated. You know, like, fuck out of here. That's not true. You're a fucking kid. You're too busy playing with your fucking toys and shit. Get out of here. But Spirited Away, I had this on VHS, and I watched it a lot, and it impacted me. And this movie and like Star Wars as a kid, like really played with my imagination and stuff. And this is weird. I don't know. I feel weird talking about this, but again, I was a fucking child, but like I would like I would have like imagine, or like I would have like dreams where I was like a lot of my dreams would like be based on like this movie, or like in like the world and stuff. And this is one of those movies that's always like really comforting, and like it's always one of those movies too. Well, after I'm done watching it, it's one of the few movies. It's probably the only movie I've ever seen where I'm just like I'm actually feel like sad or like mad that it's like over with. I'm like, man, it would, you know, it's one of the few movies like that. And so, yeah, so it's my number one. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else like deep to say about that. There's a lot of like essay people that say this movie is like metaphor for prostitution or something. I don't know. Who gives a shit? It's my favorite animated film. It's also my favorite, probably, fictitious world in any animated or movie. Thoughts on any? I've never even watched Neon Genesis at all, which is weird. And everybody I tell that to, they're like shocked. They're like shitting their pants. They're like having panic attacks in the street when I tell them that. But yeah, I've never seen any Neon Genesis. I also was gonna say too, when I was making this list, there was like, I knew in the back of my head, like there's probably like all these lists. I knew there in the future there's gonna be like at least two movies. I can't picture any more, especially with this one, that are gonna sneak in there in the list. But you know, for the most part, I've seen, like, when it comes to animation, even like horror movies as well, I've seen pretty much like the top tier stuff at this point. For the most part, there's probably like two movies I haven't seen that are considered top tier, but yeah, so whatever. If it changes, if the list changes, it's whatever. It's probably gonna like the top five is probably gonna be pretty much the same, and whatever. I'm doing this for fun, not really taking the list seriously. Yeah, that's the video. Goodbye.